everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Teachers of BC podcast. Real teachers, real stories, and real life. This is Kylie with you today, and I'm going to recommend you get yourself a cup of tea because I'm here with our English friend, Nicole. She's another one of the hosts of the show, and we're going to chat about teaching. So get comfy, and Nicole, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello, yes, I teach with Kylie actually, and I am a science math teacher, high school teacher. I am a relatively new teacher. I've only been teaching for about 3 years now, so it's definitely been a sharp learning curve. And of course, I came from the English school system, so I did all of my high school and undergrad in England, and then I moved here 10 years ago. So having those two sides is quite fun.
I always like to hear about the English school system, especially the high school, because it's so different, right? You have GCSEs and sixth form, and how does it differ from the Canadian school system?
It's very different. There's a lot more standardized testing. So you have standardized tests all through elementary school, then you have one going into high school, and then you have the big exams that come up in grade 10, which is the GCSEs.
Right.
And after your GCSEs, you actually choose 4 courses. So I chose biology, geography, chemistry, and the fourth one that I can't remember. It was so important.
Art, music, anything like that?
It was music. I think it was music, or I think it was one of those ones. So you choose 4, and then after 1 year, you have your AS levels, which is another standardized test. Then you drop 1, and you end up with 3.
Wow.
Yeah, so 3 standardized tests in a row. So the teaching is very different. You teach to the test there, and there's not a lot of movement for more sort of creative things. They do obviously do some creative things, of course, but it's more sort of teaching to the test. And as a student, you really have to figure out what you want to do for university at your GCSE level. So for instance, I wanted to do biology at university, so I had to take biology A level.
Right, because otherwise you couldn't go into that in university.
Exactly. You don't apply to the university, you apply to the course and the university.
Oh, I see.
If that makes sense. So I needed to do biology because I wanted to apply for the biological science degree at the University of East Anglia.
So specific, because here, typically students have an idea of what they want to major in, but I guess they don't really have to declare it until 3rd year. So
you got it.
Oh, that's
so you
interesting.
declare your major going into university.
Right.
And university degrees are very tailored. So it's a 3-year program. Pretty much all university degrees are 3-year program, and they are very specialized. So I only did biology things. I didn't do electives.
During that biology time, that's when you came to Canada for your first time, right? Or at least to study here. Tell us about that a little bit.
I did. So when I was at University of East Anglia, the one reason I wanted to go to that university is that it gave an opportunity for students to travel abroad for a year. So my program actually ended up being 4 years instead of the normal 3. And I went to SFU for a year. Yes.
Awesome.
And that's where I fell in love with Canada.
And fell in love.
But
that's another story for
another podcast.
Another podcast. I'm just thinking how it's so interesting how that all happened. And you're talking about how the English school system and the Canadian school system are different. And my question is, what made you decide to go into teaching? And then I'm also curious, do you think that you would be a teacher if you had stayed in England because it seems so different?
That's a really good question. I have always sort of dabbled my toe into the idea of being a teacher. I was very much an academia person, though. I wanted to go into research throughout my degree, and then when I moved to Canada, when I finished my degree in England, I did 2 years as a research, I was a research assistant at a pharmaceutical company.
That's so cool.
And then I moved here and I was like, what am I going to do with myself? So then I decided to do a master's. So I always thought I was going to go down the research road.
Right.
And do research just specifically on viruses, because that was my passion. But as I was doing my graduate studies, I did a lot of TAing, and I really enjoyed that. And then I was actually a volunteer and then organizer of Let's Talk Science, which is an outreach program for high school and kindergarten kids. So we went to high schools and kindergartens, high school and elementary, and we did hands-on activities for the kids for free.
And that hooked you.
And that hooked me. I was like, okay, no, the teaching is for me. I love the environment. I love the creativity.
Yeah.
So that's
very
I switched.
Cool. So you never had any of the same kind of teaching opportunities when you were in university in England, or did you?
No, I didn't at all. I was primarily there as a student and student.
Right.
There was not really a lot of movement, and that's one disadvantage of the English school system is that there is not as much movement. You have to choose when you're 16 what you want to do for university, and
that's crazy.
Whilst at university you have no movement. Well, at least I don't know what it's like now, but when I was at school,
yes,
you didn't have any movement in terms of your degree. You weren't taking electives or anything like that.
Once you picked your major, that was it. That was your focus.
That was it.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that all of that brought you here, because I'm always excited that we get to work together, and we work really closely in a lot of different ways. And you're talking about how your A-levels, you had science and then you had music, and now you work at an art school.
I know,
and
you're so serendipitous.
It works great, and you play guitar and you sing. So
I do. This is definitely a nice home for me. So I guess my creative outlet is definitely music. So I'm a weird kind of scientist. I'm like a musical scientist.
I like that, because I think that sometimes, I mean, for me anyway, I teach English and writing, and sometimes I think about math and science. I don't think of it initially as creative of a subject, but I think there are ways that you can be creative in those subjects, right?
I think so.
How do you marry those two together?
Oh, I love that question. So that's definitely working at an art school. I can do that with my students because they bring such a passion of creativity to the table. So we do things like we act out the cell cycle. We rap about mitosis.
I love that.
And we draw kids' books for different organisms and how they reproduce and what their life cycle is like. So I bring creativity that way into the classroom so I'm marrying my two passions.
Totally.
I always love it when the kids do a rap about meiosis. I think it's fun.
And I keep saying I love that, but I do, especially at this school, and the students must love it too.
They do. They do. And it allows them to take the content where they want to go as well, right? I'm not putting them in a box, and I'm not putting the content in the box as well. I give them an overarching topic, and they can kind of go where they want with it.
And then if they're able to take the content and especially the skills that you're trying to teach them and do it in a way that makes sense to them, and that they're organically able to process, that just must make it so much easier for them to understand, right?
Definitely.
Cool.
Absolutely. And I always love it because the kids have fun with it as well. So especially in math, I understand that math is not everyone's favorite subject, but if they can have fun in math class and learn something from it, that's my goal.
So do you have any stories that stand out to you when you think about the students? Tell us a cool story about your teaching students.
So we were making robots, scribbling robots in the class, and I thought it was just going to be a one-time activity. I didn't know if they were going to be interested in doing it because it's just a little motor and a cup.
Which is so funny. Just how you're talking about it so nonchalant. Oh yeah, we were working with robots, which I that's so cool that you get to work with robots.
I'm not talking about fancy
AI
type robot. It was literally a cup and a motor.
Okay.
It wasn't anything super fancy.
It's still pretty cool.
So that's why I didn't have... as teachers out there, you often think, this lesson's okay. It's hands-on, so they might like it. But then you get surprised by the reception that your students have towards the actual topic. So this was one of the positive ones. We were doing this. I thought it was going to be a one-time lesson, and they got so into it that we ended up doing it for the whole week.
Oh, cool.
And what I loved about it is, the kids sometimes teach you as well as we teach them. Then they morph the lesson into a design lesson and improving on their design. And now it wasn't just a robot that scribbled, it was now a robot that can move or do something.
Oh, that's so cool. So they took
really cool.
what you introduced to them and made it their own.
And I think, yes, we work at an art school, but that happens in every classroom, right? That sometimes the weirdest ideas and the wacky idea that you have that's like, oh, that will last an hour. Oh, but now it's lasted a whole week, and they just grabbed onto it. And that's what I love about the Canadian school system, is that we have the movement and the ability to do that. I'm not married to, you know, I need to get all of this content done because they have a standardized test to take at the end of the year. I had the flexibility to be like, okay, let's do this for a week, and let's do some student design, and let's do, you know, which is all part of the scientific process.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think that works both ways, right? Like in the same sense that, like you said, sometimes you have a lesson where you're not sure how it's going to go and it takes off. Sometimes you have a lesson that you think is going to take off and it flops. Maybe does it. It flops for whatever reason. I've
been there. Yeah. I think we've all been there, where you're up till 2 a.m., designing this lesson, and you're so excited by it, and then it's like,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
But again, we have that flexibility to, okay, let's veer right and let's learn from it. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we do have some luxury in our classrooms, and actually the question that we kind of finished with, is this idea that we have. So when I interviewed Taylor Photo, if you caught that interview a few weeks ago, check it out. A little plug there, but he wanted a magical lightsaber. We have a magic wand. Do you have something else that you would like? Nicole's a big Taylor Swift fan, so maybe,
yes,
I don't know.
Love Taylor Swift.
You would just love a magic Taylor Swift.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. Although I don't know how much teaching I would get done, because I would just be fangirling and talking to her about the music process.
Fair enough.
Actually, maybe I could ask her how to make more music with science.
Maybe she would know. So Taylor Swift aside, what else do you think in 2020, in this time of, great things and lots of change, what does your ideal classroom look like?
That's a great question. I would love to do more labs. So the biggest thing for me is that we, to do a lab as a science teacher, it takes so much energy. It takes so much prep. It takes so much, so many materials. And then at the end of that, you have to then clean up. And we got our lab techs taken away from us. Oh. So if I was to wave a magic wand for all of us science teachers, it would be to have a lab tech person to help set up the labs, to help clean up the labs, to help with lab supplies, those kinds of things, because I would love to do more. Right. But as you know, there's a limited amount of time in the day.
For sure.
So I would love a person to help with more hands-on labs, because that's the best way for kids to learn science, is hands-on, and it's the most fun.
Oh, absolutely. And so to take out the time of prep and setup and just get more time where you get to spend it with the kids working hands-on, I think that's a nice wish.
It is a very good wish. And also, doing a lab with 24 students is quite hard. So the extra hands would really help, especially if you want to do cool things with Bunsen burners, but you have 24 kids in the classroom.
Ooh, that sounds scary.
It is scary. The first time I was doing a lab, I was very intimidated, but you set up the safety, and the kids are pretty good at following the rules.
Well, I think they're so excited that they get to use a Bunsen burner that they may be more engaged in paying attention. So
I think so. They're good kids at the end of the day, but it is nice to have that extra pair of hands to help.
Well, since we work at the same school, if ever during my prep you're doing a Bunsen burner lab, I can't promise that I'll be any better than the students, but you just let me know if you need me to help you out.
Thank you so much. I may take you up on that.
No problem. And thanks for chatting with me. I know that we're friends, but it's so nice to talk about it in this context. And I also want to thank our listeners for joining us today. This has been the Teachers of BC podcast, and we are coming at you every Monday with a new episode. So check out our social media. Check us out. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music. We're kind of spreading now. So
it's exciting.
It is exciting.
And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. So thank you very much. And I hope everybody has an excellent week. Bye.